And a big hey now to everybody out there. It's a Friday. Friday. Hey, Brian, I see you out there in the chat. Good to see you, my friend. Quattro Cinco. Kind of makes me think about this 6-year anniversary coming up here. Pretty soon, we'll be at the 6-year anniversary, and it will be Quattro Cinco Day, on December 2nd this year, which is a Tuesday. Tuesday, December 2nd. See, I got an old video here from last year. I should ask DJ Cryptomatic and his buddy to redo this one. This looks pretty good. Let me throw it on there. It is referencing the 5-year anniversary, but here we go.
All right, HEX Staker class, it's go time. 5 years of proof of cult is here. HEX, the big daddy in crypto. 5 years running, flawless, resilient, and still on top. On December 2nd, join the 5555 club. Join the club. Grab 5,555 HEX, stake it for 5,555 days, and start building that generational wealth.
Proof of cult.
Lock up your coins and be part of the most epic community crypto's ever seen. Are you code-proof? Let's go, Hexicans!
So like I said, it's an old video from last year. It needs to be updated. Obviously, it's not 2024, 2025. Belgian, yeah, maybe 2 more weeks. Maybe 2 more weeks. Maybe a little longer than that, I think. Noah's Ark, can you explain what a Quattro Cinco stake is? Yeah, I think obviously people who are part of the community already know that Quattro Cinco refers to 5,555 days and staking or mining HEX over that period of time. And what it does is it maximizes the longer pays better bonus that you get for that and locks in those T-shares for a very long time. Now, things have really changed even over the last couple of years, where there are multiple options now to be staking Quattro Cinco and do it in pooled stakes, or even doing actuator HSIs, Hedron. I mean, there's all these different ways that you could be doing this, but probably I wanted to see if I had this chart up here. We'll look at it on the regular chart here in a moment, but I can just show the drop off and the number of T-shares that are out there. So for those of you who plan to be around for another 15 years or so, it is a pretty big opportunity to get in and do that today. So we'll hit it a couple more times. Right, Mr. Red Squirrel. Noah's Ark is HEX better than Bitcoin. Throw me those volleyballs. Throw those up there, man. Set. Yeah, or beach ball, I guess, whatever. But yeah, we do believe that it's a better Bitcoin. I do, anyways. All right, so let's get into a couple of different things. First thing up, I wanted to just share with you guys some of the information that I have going out into a couple of the public feed channels now. I'll post the telegrams here. I'm kind of reluctant to do that because stupid bots pick them up. But I don't have any better way to put these out there. So let me grab this. Let me grab this link real quick. All right. So 2 things. One, I've had this HEXFire Insights Telegram for a very long time, up and running. What I've done to help provide better information to people is made it into a news feed. So these are some of the slides that we see here. So still working on this. If you join up, make a request or whatever, but just sending 30-day look aheads in there, the full chart as it becomes available, just showing the T-share rate over time, 30-day look aheads on HEX payouts. This is always a big one that people are interested in, just showing when HEX will be paid out. This can be done in both Ethereum and Pulse Chain, but this is Pulse Chain right now. And then the 12-month look ahead, you see that giant God candle there of HEX coming out, which is the OA HEX. And so you can just see right on the screen the relative downtrend of HEX that is going to be released month over month. So when we talk about scarcity, you know, that's what I'm referencing as a scarcity of HEX coming out. Clearly, there is not as much coming out month over month as we go into the future. We do have to kind of isolate this big OA staking and kind of put that aside for the moment. And then you always see in November, December, this time, this is what we're saying, not always in November, December, but you can see like almost 4 billion still scheduled to come out in November, 3.5 billion in December. Well, a lot of the short staking that's getting done, we call that the bow wave, continues to get done up there, right? And so, you know, we move a month out, it'll probably be 4 billion for December and 3.5 billion for January and so on and so forth. So it just kind of moves out. But if you look at the months after March, you can just see visually, you can see the downtrend of the amount of HEX that's going to be coming out from the longer stakes that are out there. All right, so these are some of the things that you can see in the Insights channel, just the public feed channel. You can go in there and view and comment. I've added the HEX share rate changes there, because people always have questions about the HEX share rate and why it only goes up, etc. And it does only go up by design. That's how the system works, and that helps to simulate what we call the compound rewards or compound interest over time. Because anytime somebody exits, they have to pay more HEX or go longer to get the same number of T-shares. And as part of that, a calculation is run when somebody ends a stake to increase the rate. And so you can just see the last 10 rate increases here on the screen. Anywhere from 1.5 HEX to, looks like the highest was 70.40 HEX in a single change. You can also see on the 13th, we had 2 of them. You know, that does happen during the day. You know, it's kind of like little tiny happenings for HEX that happen on a really regular basis. All right, so this is this channel. Let's see if I can get back to my screen for whatever reason. Sometimes when I do these, do the intensive stuff, my computer gets a little bogged down here. Hold on. I'm stuck on this screen. All right, let me reshare. How's everybody doing out there? You ready for a good weekend? I hope. I gave you the nice big blank screen. Let's go look and see if I can reshare this thing. I'll share the rest of it. There we go. Blank. Sharing the screen. Nothing like a blank screen for a presentation. Here we go. We're back to the T-share report. Okay. So that was one. There's a second feed. Now, this one's a little bit more intensive. This is a different news feed, but it's the HEX Bond Desk, BOND, Bond Desk. I'll just show you guys some of the information we have there. Okay, so there's a different link that I dropped out there. Now, the HEX bond desk, while we're looking specifically at HEX and some of the information regarding T-shares and whatnot, it's what people requested in that channel, on the Insights channel. You know, with these types of look-aheads and the share rate increases and all the rest, goes a little bit deeper. So the bond desk has more to do with something that not everybody's interested in, which is trading. But there is a lot of ratio trading that goes on. So is it? So for example, you can go over to that HEX bond desk and just get regular information about HEX related tokens, you know, what their ratios are to HEX currently, what the liquidity situation looks like on V2 with HEX, etc. Kind of gives you an idea of what's happening out there. When you look at some of these tokens, these are tokens that people normally ask me about when I'm talking about HEX. People will be like, well, what about Helgo? Helgo is a pretty big token on chain, guys. Right? So it's a pretty big deal. You got the Hedron out there, which of course is reward token for staking HEX. You have a DECI out there and the Maxi, which are these group pooled stakes that are out there. So you can actually go look at those and see how they're connected. And then Communis, which is COM, is another reward token for native staking of HEX. This is a place to kind of bring this all together where people can look at it, look at this information. You do have to always be careful about what's happening in the market, particularly with liquidity. You can see some of these tokens with HEX have very low liquidity. There is other liquidity out there, maybe on Tide from the 0x Coast guys, as well as PHUX. So you may see that out there as well. But specifically on the PulseX and V2, this is what we have. So you can grab that information. We also go into some detail on this channel. Again, it is a public feed channel. Just bring awareness to the actuator ecosystem and the bond-like operation that's there. And so this has been fun to watch. I don't do a lot of ratio trading, but I understand why people would. And obviously it's crypto, and so it's kind of synonymous with trading. You do have, you know, I'll spare you with keep warning people about trading and not doing it. But what this is all about is really kind of monitoring the different types of bonds that are out there, HEX, the actuator token, what the current price is, and you can see everything's been in a downtrend the last 24 hours. You didn't have to tune in here to find that out, I'm sure. The prices have been pretty off. But what we're able to do with those bonds, which are represented by the HTTs, right, is be able to kind of guess at what they should be priced at against HEX, and then look at what the actual discount is, and then determine, do I think they're cheap or do I think they're expensive? And so if I was ratio trading in order to get more HEX, an HTT that's cheap, that's going to give me more HEX in the future might be something I'm interested in, right? But this is DeFi, so people got to make their own decisions, et cetera, et cetera. But again, this channel is all about getting that information out there. And then they've gone a little bit further with even getting into the Mayer multiples. And then this one here is kind of interesting. This is looking at the DECI and the Maxi as a packaged product. Now remember, we just looked at liquidity, and liquidity is very low out on the ecosystem for these tokens. That's because the people who own them don't want to put them up for sale. They don't want to lose them, right, with impermanent loss. But if you look at the DECI, this is my guess, is that it's going to pay out 2.46 HEX in 2032. So if I have one DECI, I'm expecting that I'm going to get something around 2.46 HEX in 2032. And currently it only costs about 80% of a HEX. And so from that, much like we do in the bond market, we can estimate what the ROI is. So if I was to swap, one of my HEX, now this doesn't include taking into account price impact and slippage and all that. So it's kind of like straight up on paper. What I could do is I can say, okay, well, if I buy one now, I'm going to get an ROI of 205%. And then what I can do is divide that by the number of years, and that gives me that gives me a APR. And so, yes, while the deal lasts and within the ranges that we're looking at, you can swap for DESI and basically lock in. It is variable because we don't know what the market will do with APR, but I do think it'll just go up, not down. Your estimated APR would be 29.44%, which is pretty good compared to 5%, right? So, you'd have to be willing to make your plans around how long you'd hold your DESI, whether you're holding it to the end. But if you were going to hold it to the end, then I would expect that the ROI in HEX would be 205%, Maxi 204%, 205%, right around the same number. And yeah, so that's a much longer, 5 years longer that you'd have to hold the Maxi to get the same deal almost, right? And so DESI looks very, very attractive from that perspective. And if we go up and look at the current liquidity situation just with HEX, is very low liquidity, $3,000, right? So yes, there is DESI in V3s out there, and there's other pairs and whatnot. You would just have to be really careful if you wanted to trade. Probably this is something that probably only supports a few $100s, in terms of trading from that perspective. All right. Well, let's go to the internet. Let's go to the internet now. I'm going to swap over to the other stuff. So yeah, if you're interested in those channels, go ahead and join. There's no cost or anything involved. Those are just public feed channels, trying to send information directly into the Telegram. Just another way for people to get info. All right, I'm going to turn off that sharing. Let's go to the intranets. All right. Boom. And this is going to give us this view on the Quattro Cincos that we wanted to get to, or wanted to get to. All right. So we got a chart up here showing what we have over in 2040 and beyond for HEX staking. Let's go ahead and look and see if we got any comments in here. Oh, Archie, good to see you, Archie. Tim. Red Squirrel. Noah's Ark. Yeah, Noah, we can go look here in a minute and see what the prices are. I don't have that off the top of my head. Relatively cheap right now for a T-Share. SMO Spider. The Spider. He's here. All right. X Farm. I don't know if you're joking or not, but BTC ETH moving in the correct direction, maybe. Yeah, common fear for everybody is they'll be dead in 15 years. But you're not going to be dead. You're going to be here. And then Eddie's saying, I will still be working in 15 years. Yeah, it's typically what we say. We got to get past that, though. You got to get past the I'm going to work until I'm dead theory. Not a good look. All right. All right, so taking a look at this chart that I put up here, kind of like starting at the end here of the presentation. So these are the T-shares that are expiring out in 2040 and 2041. Now, for those who watched last week, you would have noted that the January 2041 T-shares have come up to 1.28K. I think it was around 500 of them last stream or so, but that's because people continue to stake. But we have a pretty uniform grouping of T-shares month over month, May through December of 2040, and then going into 2041. So we have not seen a big trend to do something different out there. And so I think that just makes opportunity. I think it provides opportunity, and particularly with some of the stakes where you can be flexible with getting at the liquidity earlier, like Actuator, Stakehouse is another example, etc. You could be staked out Quattro Cinco and potentially have access to 50% of the value to do something with or not. And what it does is it locks you in, though, to getting the best share rate you can at this time, and being able to get the most gains from your stakes. But you got to be thinking you're going to be around 15 years, right, for that to make sense. If you're planning to hold. But one of the positives of being able to wrap a stake in something like a HEX staking instance is because it's wrapped and that you can send it. You don't have to keep it in the same wallet. You can actually market it. You could sell it. You could do a number of different things, borrow against it potentially here in the future. I know there's a couple of groups working on additional protocols for that type of thing. So it makes it very it makes in this current environment makes it very attractive to me because I believe in HEX, right? That long term doing Quattro Cinques would be the only thing I really want to do. Now this is a log chart, so this big bar of 16 million T-shares that are planned to be ending in April of 2040. They're not in the right, it's not sized relatively correctly to the other bars, because the other bars would basically look like zero. But this represents like a 98% drawdown in the number of T-shares over a single day out in the future. So currently there is opportunity because the OA has not restaked for Quattro Cinques. I guess we'll be looking for that in March. I don't know what the OA is going to do when their stakes come out. Is the OA going to restake and go out 15 years? Perhaps. I don't know. There's no plan. There's no written plan that tells me that's what's going to happen. So if the OA does not restake, then all these folks who are out here in this period of time, they get the benefit of being the only ones sharing all of the rewards out in that period. Once we get out there, long time away, 14 years away, right? And if the OA does restake, they haven't restaked yet, but they would create a, they basically, let's say this continues on for another few months until March, and we've got, the rough, I'm just going to say call it 2K, but 2K, right, of T-shares going out into, out into 2041, and then the OA comes in and stakes, 32 billion or whatever HEX and drops a new one. You'll basically end up with this this valley in between the OA stakes, right? And yes, the OA would eat into the rewards, but remember that the OA also has to pay more HEX per T-share, and so it will be losing its value over that period of time as well. So very interesting game dynamics, and I really don't have an answer for you for what's going to happen. All right, let's go back to the beginning. All right, so that should be this should be a good start. So let's go look at the 30-day. 30-day is pretty similar. We've been seeing this, and this is how it works, right? I mean, a lot of the stuff is, at least that I'm showing, the numbers change and whatnot, but it looks the same. I mean, it's HEX. HEX T-share rate goes up. It only goes up. It's by definition, by the way the contract is written. You can see here roughly where we are in the red being the ETH share rate, a little bit higher than the Pulse Chain share rate. In blue, those are the current share rates, and what I think the possibilities are for changes. And so we get out here into November 19th, 2025. There's a potential on the 20th or the 21st or the 23rd that somebody will end a stake and then drive this all the way up to near 45K on both chains. So for Pulse Chain, that's going to be potentially almost a 2,000 HEX increase, almost a little bit less than that. Same thing for the Ethereum side, and I can see a little bit of bumpage here. These a little bit flat spots here, a couple different points where it's going up there's probably multiple stakes that will bring it up to 45. But in the case that any of them don't, the next hex stake that ends that can increase it will increase it. So we will get to 45. The question is, when will we get to 45? Will we get to it immediately, or will it take a few days, a week? And then, of course, if people will come in and start staking small amounts and start increasing the rate. So when we look backwards, you know, it won't look like there were very many flat spots or very long at all. It's just how that works. All right, so that's our 30-day. I'm thinking we get up to 45K. The 60 looks the same because just haven't had a stake yet come and be staked that can beat those old stakes with the very high APR. So since they can't beat them yet, they don't exist. The share rates can't be predicted. So again, this is not what it'll look like when we're done, but this is what it looks like today. 90-day, still at 45. So we're going to be waiting for some of those new stakes to come. And I think it takes all the way out until next year sometime before we really can get past this. We'll have to wait and see what people are going to do with staking. Then we look at 2025. You can see how it's flat here at the beginning of the year. Again, 45 is the level. We go out to 27. We can see that the first change is right around when I think the OA will be ending their stake in March. So again, even though this looks like a big flat spot out here, that's not how it'll look. You know, what typically ends up happening is the smaller stakes get done and they start to increase it. When we look at the long-term look ahead, we can see here, bloop, 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 up and to the right. That's the HEX T-Share Rate. You know, we were, you know, with the change of rewards, it did change how the future would look, but it's a pretty steady forecasted increase over time. So I would guess when we do get out to 15 years, it'll be 70, 76, 80,000, you know, somewhere in that kind of range for HEX per T-share. Looking at the drawdowns, what have we been seeing for drawdown? Let's see, back one more. All right. So over the last month on the Ethereum side, it looks like we had almost 100,000 T-shares ended and just about 50,000 started. So we lost 47% of the T-shares that came up that were due. On the Pulse Chain side, it looks like about 28%, which is, these have been pretty normal kind of numbers. We see on the Ethereum side, you know, the R&R, the risk reward is getting higher and higher. We just don't know what will happen long term on the HEX side, how things will change. I know a lot of people are on both sides, right? So I mean, they're interested in that, but clearly fewer people are staking long term and for less on the Ethereum side. And so what we're seeing is a drawdown of the T-shares at a greater rate. And then Pulse Chain, it's been pretty much in this 20 to 30% range for a long time. So it's pretty common that that's the case. So that means to me, as again, we look at those T-shares and we were looking at the rate of the drawdown over time and how many T-shares will be out there in the future. It just looks to me as if there's no way for the regular users right at the moment to keep the number of T-shares up. And so I would expect to see T-shares dropping over time, which is what we've always seen. But we can kind of prove it out. Let's go look at that right now. I've got a T-share count. So this chart here, we're going to bring it up into 2024, 2025. Let's see here. Let's see if we can get this thing to change for us. All right, we can see how we were kind of visually it might be a little bit difficult right at the moment, but day over day, the T-share counts were dropping. The OA made the moves here and brought the T-share counts way up. And then now since then, go out to here, you can see they're just dropping, right? Because that's how the system's made, right? Unless you come in with a significant amount of HEX, you can't overcome. I mean, never say never. I suppose there's a scenario where people could increase the T-share rate, but it's not likely. I mean, not the T-share rate, I mean the number of T-shares, but it's not likely what's going to happen. So this is what we're going to see as a drawdown. And so the non-OA stake drawdown is always going to be something to contend with, and so it'll look like 20 to 30%. Now that's good for anybody else who's maintaining the ladders, right? That's kind of the key. Is if you're maintaining your ladder, that's the you're in a good position, right? And we joke around a lot about this, but it's kind of like a closed garden now. I mean, I don't know if I'm right, but when we were talking about what the effects would be from the OA doing all the staking, one of the theories I came out with is, well, you really are stratifying the groups of people that are involved, right? Because the ones who have been here for a long time are the only ones that can kind of maintain the number of T-shirts that they have. And then future participants, their deal is a whole new deal, right? And so some people are turned off by that a lot, right? Because they're not, some people will be like, well, it used to be that you got 40%. Now you only get 5%. So I'm not interested. And it's kind of a litmus test, right? Of, people interested, not interested. And then you have a lot fewer people interested. And so it kind of creates this closed community of people who have the HEX, who are staking the HEX and getting the new HEX. And, that's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to do, to preserve your T-shares over time. And so, but none of this makes any sense to you, I think. Make any sense to me unless I believe in HEX and believe that HEX will be around for 15 years, which is incredibly hard. Right? Prices down, blood in the streets, sacks, this, sacks that. But yeah, and HEX Wizard saying in the chat, blood in the streets and buy the dip. Thank me later. Yeah. And, it's really hard to even say that with a straight face. I mean, how do you say that to other people? I mean, we can say it here, because a lot of us are like-minded and interested in HEX. But I just acknowledge and recognize a lot of people are like, no, that's crazy, But I see it working. It works day over day. And just like Eddie's working day after day. All right, Tam, good to see you on here. Yeah, I can bright light. I'll pull up. I haven't looked at exactly at the emergency end stakes themselves for the last couple of weeks. But let's see if we pull something up and go look at that here in a minute. Maybe we'll go look at the 2040 numbers and what those look like for the site. Susie Q, always good to see you. Yeah, there's a lot of good sites for HEX stats. Actually, I just want to be replaced. So over time, Western TV, HEX Scout does pretty good. HEX Daily Stats is out there. There's a lot of different things you can do. A lot of different places to get information. All right, give it up. It's over. Thank you. That's what I mean. I've heard that before. Believe it or not, I've heard that. You had me at T-Share. Yes. You had me at T-Share. And it is hard right now. It is hard right now. And then Brian saying, buy the dip, Quattro Cinco HSI, actuator loan, sell half the HTT farm for actuator, lock in actuator token for HEX as HTT. Yeah, nice little game going on over there. I call it a game, but it's not negatively. Yeah, with the actuator, what's cool about that is if you HTTs or you're working with HTTs, they are backed by HEX. So they are worth a HEX. They will be worth a HEX. They're locked in by the by the stakes and the delegation. And so I'm pretty excited about that whole area having legs for sure. Long term for there to be a lot of opportunity for bond like trading, something I'm not really good at or do. But I recognize that crypto is built on trading, and there will be opportunities when people, people are working with the yield curve. But I won't get too much into that here today. I got a bunch of streams that I've brought up before, I've done before. You can go watch those on the channel. All right, so we're looking at our counts and how that looks. Let's look at the HEX T-shares and how they look going into the future. Again, most people won't be super interested in it, but here, this is what we're talking about, right here, 2041. Right, it's not quite 0.0, pretty low, but we see the T-shares ending, year over year. We get to the big OA stake, it drops 16 million, and essentially you have nothing out here. I mean, it's just not a lot out there in 2041 at this point. So just 1,000 T-shares, right? And so anybody who is willing to make that gamble, we'll call it a gamble because this is crypto, right? We don't know what's going to happen in 15 years, and going to participate. You can be out here Quattro Cinco and have a opportunity for something a lot of people other people wouldn't have. And then that's not to say that doing a 10-year stake isn't a good idea either. I mean, you look at this, there just is not a lot happening out in 2036 through 2039 as opposed to 2040. But this big old candle from the OA kind of disguises what's happening, right? Because the OA candle of HEX, kind of like makes people think they got to consider what happens when 16.7 million T-shares come out, blah, 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 right? But in the past, the OA has only done benevolent moves, so it shouldn't be a big deal at all. It shouldn't affect us at all in a negative fashion. But I am curious to see what will happen again in March of this year, and what of 2026, and what the OA will do, because that may project what will be done in the future. But again, huge opportunities with HEX. Pretty much, I mean, I'll be honest with you, people listening here, there are obviously some people commenting that, hey, staking HEX is a good idea. But damn, man, you have to acknowledge it's hard for people to believe that, right? So you really have to have been doing your research and have concluded that HEX is a opportunity. And what makes it even better for those of us who have is that the more of you guys who don't participate, the better off everybody else is who did participate. Crazy paradox there, right? And then, of course, if you are utilizing, and this is what Brian was saying, if you're utilizing something like Actuator, you don't have to wait until 2041 to activate or put that capital back in play. You can actually use things like the HTT market, where you can essentially get 50% of the value out immediately, something close to that anyways, and be able to put that up for LP, farm it, earn on it. I mean, I think last I looked, their farms over there are running about 70% right now. So 60 to 70%. That's pretty cool. I could take $1,000 worth of HEX, swap it for $500 instead of doing a stake. But as a quick example, swap it for $500 of an HTT, put it into LP, and earn 70% on both the HEX and the HTT that goes in there. And so yeah, it's a pretty profitable venture. Of course, over time, those things do change. right? I mean, farms go up and down, and we see that. So you have to be careful and do a little bit of research. But anyways, there is that opportunity. All right, so these are HEX T-shares. Just going out into Quattro Cinco's by start. So looks like we've got 908 T-shares Quattro Cinco so far this month. Woo. It might be a little bit higher than that. The numbers are going to look different than when I'm looking at the end dates. So this is, start dates. And it's a little bit higher than October, which is around 820. Let's say, I think my EX is going to look very similar to the PX, right? Very similar, right? Because similar activities. The big difference, I think, when we look at the EHEX is the emergency end stakes, and that may have taken a bite out of 29, 30, and 33. All right. Now, this is an important one. This is just showing the drop in T-shares and how they come down. Right, blip, 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 blip. You notice how I'm saying that the T-shares might be at 15 million out here in 2040, and you would rightly say, well, how could that possibly be if the OA has that stake ending? Right, it's because in a forecast you make a decision as to what you think is going to happen in the future. That's what's a forecast. And so I'm forecasting something like that 20 to 30% drop of T-shares as shares end, which means we don't go to zero. It means that we're only losing 20 or 30%. And that creates this kind of like a curve, blah, 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 right? For what the number of T-shares will be for every year going out into the future, right? And so then based on that and based on the amount of HEX that's being minted, you can kind of guess at what the T-share payout's going to be and how it goes up from 1.5, 1.6, and doubles up to 3.5, right? But guys, this is a guess. This is a guess, right? I don't know what's going to happen, all right? And so this is a very good question that came up with somebody as well. What if? Well, actually, I think the question was formed differently. The question to me was, when will or what will have to happen for the reward, the yield to come back in HEX? What will have to happen? And so this number down here that I'm showing on the screen is based on restaking, including maintaining a relative restaking rate, including the OA restaking. So what happens when we have a big old bunch of T-shares that the OA has and they don't restake? What happens? Payout goes up. Payout's going to go up. And so we're going to get into, and I don't know what's going to happen. That's why we got to be careful about what we say, because I don't, unless one of you guys has the OA plan. I don't have the OA plan. I don't know what it is. All right. But, so let's say we get out into March and the OA stake ends, right? Or somebody good accounts it, but it's not restaked in any way, shape, or form. We're going to get a little bit of an increase. Loop. I don't know how much it'll be. We get an increase, right? And then it's going to go up a little bit. I'm not going to be able to draw this right, am I? No, I'm not very good at drawing. I'll do lines. All right. Let's go to 2025. We're going to bring this up into almost the current time. How's that? Give us a moment to update. I'm going to show you the increase. All right. So you can see how we all have all these payouts, and actually a little higher than the estimate. All right. I'm going to go back to my little drawing tool, and I'm going to do a line this time. And I'm going to say, okay. So we get out here into like say March, April timeframe. That OA stake gets taken off the books, And then instead of it being where it was, it ends up being something like that. It goes up. And then potentially for a year, it looks like this. And then OA stake ends, but nobody does anything. And then and this is assuming OA every year. All of a sudden it looks like this, right? Until you get out here. And then the OA stake doesn't end, or ends, but doesn't get restaked, right? And it goes like this. And so we could be in a situation where, suddenly, over a few years, because everybody's like fading it now, they're like, oh, I'm not interested, right? But you could be in a situation, 3, 4, 5 years from now that the, potentially, we've doubled, or tripled or whatever the amount of a payout per T-share. It's really going to all hinge on what that OA does. All right, so thank you for participating in my kindergarten class of drawing. But I hope that makes sense to you guys, right? So there is a case where the OA does not do any of this, doesn't do anything, and all of a sudden, just we stair step back up, bloop, 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 and this is something Johnny Chaos has talked about before. That would be the case. All right, let's see what else we got. Yeah, Hex Wizard 369. I had the first thing I did this morning when I woke up is I started posting in the channel. Just looking at the macro. Zoom out. I know it doesn't feel good, but zoom out, and then of course for Hex long term, not everybody can. This isn't for everybody. All right. NJ Dub saying ended a 2022 stake that got copied yesterday. $1.22 gas fee on ETH. That's so cheap. And a penny on Pulse, even cheaper. Right. Yeah, I've been seeing that as well with the ETH side. So, but yeah, we'll go. Archie saying, yep, fees on ETH recently cheap again. Koshin, good to see you. All right, thanks for these updates. Please tell me your honest opinion. Are you tired of this bottom track? Yes, man. You know what keel hauling is? I've never done it. I hear it's a sport. I never felt like I've been made to walk the plank so many times. But yeah, and like you're saying, a lot of people are thinking, hey, we all get it. We need sell pressure to get people out. But nevertheless, right? Susie Q is saying, what years do you speculate will be the bull run years? I don't know, Susie. This time's different, I guess. I don't know. We thought that, I thought there was still a chance, and I think there is still a chance that we get some sort of weird 4-year cycle top over the next 2 months to correspond with the end of the sack for Mr. Proof. But obviously none of us individually control all this stuff, right? So, maybe somebody does, but I don't. So I don't know if the markets can actually cooperate. And a lot of people say, well, that's crazy. We wouldn't see that. But, we did see in past years, we've seen crazy run-ups over 30, 40 days, alternate, then an then an altcoin type of a rally as funds rotate. So I think it's less of a chance that we're going to see this top in December or January than I previously thought. But of course, the more days that go away, that's less likely that's going to happen. So then it's becoming more and more likely that there would be some sort of a spring top, which would be 2026. And then like a whole nother set of people just believe this is a complete restructuring of the market. And we're not really going to even go into a bull market It's just going to be kind of a sideways down. And then some sort of a structure change into the future. So a lot of things that people have, I think you need to do is just be kind of looking at what's happening in the now, and make longer plans and try to beat the beat the volatility with time in the market. But of course, we've already been, it's 5 years, right? Or so time in the market for a lot of people. So it's tough. Farmer saying 26. Yep. That seems to be consensus. It'll be sometime in 26. Yeah. Ocean Breeze. This is a good comment. If one can afford to stake out some EHEX or HEX, I suggest doing at least $1 Quattro Cinco. I think I'd probably go a little bit higher than $1, but because again, make sense. But I get your point. Make it for $1, set it and forget it. And if you can do more, fine. But as long as it's long time, but it's a long-term riskier investment, which we call asymmetric, with high risk reward. Because there's risk, always a risk, right? And so, and so what you could do, and I think, I'm just looking at this out there. I mean, a lot of people, coffee money, particularly in the U.S. Why wouldn't I, do my coffee money DCA into HEX and just get set up with a Quattro Cinco ladder into the future? Yeah, I know it could all fail, and I know, I know the price is low. I know. Well, the units are cheap too, but regardless, I know it could all be zero. It's probably all going to be zero, right? So all the negativity, I get it, but that it's a hell of an asymmetric kind of a play, because a very small amount put into a ladder like that going into the future, if you see price appreciation and adoption, which again, everybody said, prove it to me. I haven't seen it yet. Right? Okay. I know. But you could create a hell of a ladder. And, a lot of people, they didn't think they're going to get 10,000x on $5 when they got into X in the beginning. And it did happen. Is it still there? No. Can it happen again? Possibly, yes. All right. It's crypto. All right. Oh yeah, Brian, that's a good point. On the think about the day after the OA stake ends. Those that do a Quattro Cinco will see one crazy day of yield. Yeah, it'll be a lot of yield. As always, it's a boil the frog kind of situation, right? There's a lot of this stuff that we look at, the stuff I look at, it's like paint drying. It's like, well, okay, so the payout is going to go up 0.01 hex per T-share per day, and it's like, it's such a small number, and it's so hard to see. But if you multiply that by 1,000, then all of a sudden you're like really excited about it. That's why when I'm talking about the actuator protocol, and I keep coming back to it, I like it because of the immutability, and it's backed by HEX. It is HEX, right? So it's like, I know that's off the maxi path. But it's a $500,000-$600,000 market right now, and 10x is not a crazy number, so it could be easily a $5 million, $6 million market, and over time at 100x, because I would think over time that's what we'd see. Now it's getting even bigger, and so at 100x now we're talking $500 million market cap, and market for people to be doing trading and such on crypto. So I like that. Yep. Yeah. Regarding the 1 day stake and that window of getting the extra rewards for that 1 day. Yep. So a lot of people may not realize what we're talking about. Let me just specify it. If you are staking back-to-back stakes in series, and you do a stake for 365 days, what the day it ends, you ended it that day. It doesn't start until the next day if you restake it. So you lose 1 day of rewards, 1 day of yield, right? So the more you do that, the more chopped up you get. But a lot of people don't care about it. But so there will be a day where even if the OA restakes their stake, there'll be a day where everybody gets a little boost. Everybody else gets a little boost because their T-shares might not be in the pool any longer. All right. Hex Farmer saying September 21st is 4 years with my math. Yeah, going back 4 years. All right, from the top. What are your personal thoughts on ProveX and all this negativity surrounding it? Well, I'm pretty exhausted, Abe. So I don't know. I don't know enough about what it is yet, and I don't have any white paper. I don't have any description or anything like that. I do recognize that Richard does come up with some innovative stuff, but I mean, how can I even answer? For how it is, but it clearly looking to bring value that's not on Pulse Chain into Pulse Chain. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Susie Q, the future over the next 15 years, bull. Thank you. Yeah, it'd be nice to see a 15-year bull run, wouldn't it? Some people would argue we've had a 15-year bull run in crypto anyways, right? And everything else just mini cycles. Archie's saying laddering is the way to go. Yep, smash the likes. Thank you. And Ape, HEX is on sale. Black Friday is your future. Yeah, for your future. It's on sale for sure. Pretty cheap today. Ratio wise, not so much. Ratios didn't shift that much, but we did see some differences for sure. All right, let's go see what we can dig up on these emergency end stakes before we close this one out. All right, I don't think there's really anything else I want to see here. All right, so I'm going to go over to. I think I have this in here. Emergency end stakes. Let's see what we got. Those are estimates. Let's do PHEX. Let's see if this one's up and running. Been updated. I haven't looked at it lately. And then we'll go look for the 2040 or the 2029, 2030 chart and see what happens with that. Gotta grab the link for the other one. All right. So this is not what I wanted. So this is not the right one. So what do I have out there? So these are the different ones that we had. That's the tool. Maybe this will give me what I want. I just may have misnamed it. I might have to just go look at the data table instead. So it's the same. This is the same thing. All right. So I actually want to go look at the ones that have ended to be able to get that information. But this kind of gives you an idea, by chain, how much could be ended, what the possibility is that people, how much HEX would they actually get out, and that type of stuff. A bit more detailed for this than I want. So let me go to mining data. We're going to go to HEX data. Let's go see what we got. So we can find the emergency end stakes and how big they've been made. All right, so this is the pulse chain side we're looking right now. I want to look at ended, yes. GA, no. And let's see what we get here for. This is November 14th, right? So let's go back a month. That's going the wrong way. 25. So we want to do October 25. And we'll just go back to 14th. So what I did is I pulled up the stakes that have actually have ended right here. And in about the last month, it's probably a couple more days on that, right? And so that I can look at my ROIs. Yeah, I noticed that the percentages are way off on this today. There must be some sort of data error that I have, so my payouts are off as well. So I do apologize for that. But I will focus on, let's go the other way. So we have been having, stakes ending that are out there. This is kind of this phenomenon that Johnny has talked about, where there could be stakes that are being ended on purpose, but instead they were ended early. Yeah, so I don't have really great info for you guys on this. So I will pull back from that. Let me go grab this other link that I do know is up. And we'll just look specifically at the T-share counts. So I would like to go look at the 2029 EES watch. All right, I got this now. Let's go look at this. Open up a new screen. And bada bing, bada boom. Give us just a moment. Okay, all right. So originally we had, this is looking at a very specific amount of time, which I'm really interested in, is the stakes that are supposed to be ending between October 29 and April of 30. Very hard to see on the chart now because the OA stakes, but this represented a pretty big tower, a couple towers on the chart before the OA staked. And so what we can see from this is that we originally started with 2.4 million T-shares and 8,193 stakes, right? And while the shape of the charts looks the same, pretty similar, the numbers are down a little bit because we have lost about 200,000 of those T-shares. Right? So we've lost 200,000 of them because they were emergency end staked. And so there's 7,349 stakes remaining. The actual count that was brought down was 188,844. We look at this little chart here. This is showing the number of T-shares emergency end stake month over month. And so it's always constant. We always have some penalties, some emergency end stakes where people drop them. But it's not what I would call like a capitulation event. Just not seeing that kind of activity, right? So we do see just ongoing emergency end stakes. This is a very specific group. Of course, like I said, looking very specifically at those 29 and 30s. And this one, if we go look at the chart here, what we're seeing is, stakes that end in that period of time, they're almost at 60% progress. There's still 2.3 million T-shares, 7,300. If they were all the emergency end stake, it's 9 billion HEX, which would be a hell of amount to hit the market. But 33 billion would go on penalties, and of course the OA would get most of the penalties. But it would be a pretty interesting event because it would drive payouts up, because this would represent quite a bit of HEX being minted. Something in the 40 billion range, but probably wouldn't affect things as much as we would think. But so 40 billion being minted, if 40 billion is minted, I guess it wouldn't be quite 40 million. It'd be something like 16 to 10, something like 20 to 25 billion would actually be counted as minted. And if we end up with 25 billion being minted, then 369 gets applied to that. So 0.0369, that would represent another 922 million HEX per year being distributed. And if we divide that by 365, it changes the payout by about 2.5 million HEX per day. And by the time you get to the point where you divide that out by 40 million, so I was saying about before about the numbers, it would change the payout in the positive direction, 0.06 HEX per T-share, roughly, some sort of number like that. Don't know what it exactly would be. So it ends up being such a small increase. It's like boil the frog, right? I mean, it's like who's gonna really jump all over that? Be like, wow, be like, well, I know it's important. I know that you have to multiply the number of T-shares by the number, by the payout, by the number of days, and then by years, and yada yada yada, and it's increasing. Yeah, it's great for me, but I like math. But for flashy silver, no, not so great. All right, what we got here? Crispy hour 50% 10-year. Oh yeah, we're looking at that right now. Are they ending more of their 10-year stakes? They're halfway through. Are they more holding? Yeah, my assessment is nothing new here. Normal. Nothing. No real big change and what's going to happen with those, which leads me to believe a few different possibilities. Right? I don't know exactly. Right? Like first. Maybe only one or two entities own all these. I don't know. Are they all away and I don't know they're away? I don't think that's the case, but that could be the case, right? Because they always doing nothing. All right. Or it could be a group of strong-handed people really believe in HEX and they're not doing anything. So, okay, that's good, I guess. Could be that there's a whole bunch of people really want to sell, but prices are so low. They're not going to merge the end stake. And so I think, it's probably likely a mix. But, yeah, I mean, we'll have to, I think what would cause capitulation right now is the HEX goes up way, way, way in price. That could possibly cause capitulation. But guys, I know I talk about the ladders and stuff, and everybody's got a different situation that they've set up. But, if you already got a ladder, I mean, let's just make up some weird numbers. If you already have a ladder that's paying you 1 million HEX per year on some sort of a regular basis or whatever, and I'm just making that number up, but just for for the purposes of discussion, right? So you got this thing already paying the million per year. Well, if the prices go nuts, you're still getting that million per year. In HEX, why would you emerge the end stake, right? So people with, I could see if the price goes like super nuts, I could see that people might consider it, right? For sure. So I think it's like a sliding scale. The more the price goes crazy, the more likely it is that individuals would emerge the end stake and take the penalties, right? But again, I got to tell you, you know, I mean, it's some pretty big moves. If somebody already believes and they have the ladder in place and they can already get what they want, then why would they go nuts, right? And like capitulate, but they could, right? That's been a big conversation between Johnny Chaos and I over a long time now. You know, with his thinking is once we got up the 50% mark, we'd see, you know, 80% of the people emerge the stick. But it hasn't happened, right? I'm showing you the numbers. It hasn't happened yet. Doesn't mean it can't happen. It just hasn't happened. And, you know, certainly getting value out would be the way to do it. Cost, thank you. Very nice of you to say I'm doing a great job. All right. Yeah, there are people coaching who do understand, but it's a limited group, right? So again, it's kind of like it's definitely echo chamber stuff. You know, it's this group of people, us, who are willing to talk about this, are interested in it, etc. Right? Because man, you just can't. You can't. It's very. I don't know. I find it difficult to argue with anybody in short time frames about why they shouldn't go chase the next thing that they saw come out. Right. And it's hard. I got to be I'm reminded on a regular basis. All right. What's the price of EX currently? I'll pull that up here in a second. Like, how about that? Yeah, SMO Spider says many XO over native staking saves us from ourselves. Yeah, yeah. There's a couple of different topics in that little statement, but yeah. Just staking in general at least saves HEX from being beat down in a way because it's not all sloshing around liquid, and there's quite a bit of it staked, and people are emotional. So with crypto, I mean, look at every crypto that's out there. Right? They all go through the very similar cycles. All right, let's go see this. Let's see if HEX Stats is up and running properly. It might be an easy, cheap way to HEX Stats today. Let's say quick way to pull some info up. Big shout out to Key for keeping this up. This was not his original site. He took it over from somebody else. So isn't going to give us exactly what I want, but pretty close. I'll answer a few different questions. So on the EHEX 0.001, pulse chain 0.005, we'll go look at the exact numbers. T-share price on Ethereum $57, and on pulse chain $211. Yeah, so relatively cheap to set up a ladder. We do see penalties here for today on the pulse chain side, 2.1 million. Liquidity, I don't know what to make of the actual liquidity situation out there, but it's very illiquid, guys. Not a lot on the market. All right, let's go look at the old HEX here. Let's see if we can find HEX show up here. All right. Let's look at big pool, HEX pulse. Close enough. Let's check our HEX ID. HEX address is B39. That's the correct address. All right. So on pulse chain, HEX on pulse chain, 0.004910, which is pretty close to that rounded up 0.005. Pretty low. Boom. Just getting beat down last couple days. Looking the hourly, looks like not so much of a downtrend right at the moment. Let's go out to the weekly. Yeah, this can't make very many people happy at all. But I would point out this is not TA-ish. It's just kind of like observing. This does look like higher lows. It does look like higher lows, so we'll have to just wait it out and see. I mean, volatility's in the game. Man, that's how people run this stuff. Let's go back to this. We'll look for HEX again. Let's get the HEX. I know I can get the address and drop it in, but I didn't do that. All right, let's see here. Always so many interesting things you can find in here with this stuff. Let me look for you. Where are we? I had this problem before. Maybe I didn't get the HEX to show up real quick. Let's go. I have so many different ways I could be doing this. Let me go over to HEX and search for that. All right. Okay, so here's my liquidity. Here's my HEX hex pair. Let's go look at that on DEX. All right, so we're at 0.001310 for the HEX. Oh boy, it's taking a long time to come up. Right, no, very similar shape. Obviously, the curve here. Let's go to the week level. Oh, this is actually kind of an interesting way to look at this. For me, let's look at that again. So remember, we were just looking at the HEX chart here, and I kind of drew this up. Come on, it's not doing that to me. It also, the HEX was also up until today, kind of looking like higher lows, right? Depending on how you wanted to look at it, but now kind of broke through a little bit. So not terrible, but you know, in crypto, volatility is in the game. I mean, that's kind of how it is, right? If we go look at, let's see what my tracked volume has been looking like. I'll do a quick look there and just see what we've got for stats. Volume's been up the last couple of days. I mean, it's been healthier than it's been in the past. This is just a subset of all the volume on the chain, but I'm showing 20 million, and we've been hitting 5, 6, 7 million for some of the days, recent past. Just looking at what's cooking on the chain and what's moving. That Peacock's still doing its thing, for sure. All right, let's get away from here, though. Go to track stats. So this is kind of like my go-to to figure out what's happening when I want to know what's happening on the chain. So number one pair, Pulse EDI, lots of EDI moving hands, changing hands. Second pair, EUSDC. Third pair, HEX Pulse, 1.3 million in volume, ETH Pulse, 1.1. So these are not unexpected, right? But those are the top pairs. Pulse EDI, Pulse EUSDC, HEX Pulse, 1.3. And that's V1 on the HEX Pulse. Let's see, top liquidity. Looks like Pulse X Pulse. Pulse EDI. We're just so tied to that EDI, man. It's so cool. All right, what's moving the fastest out there? Looks like Solid X Pulse at 6 times. So this is the volume to liquidity ratio. Running that. Some of these are kind of low numbers, but the Peacock 2.83, very big number. I would expect normal speed is right around 0.11. So we get above 0.11, it means something's happening, but you can see Peacock. So there's a lot of bot action going on with Peacock, and or user action going on there. So a lot of different activity. And I don't think I have filters on this I can use, do I? No. Okay. Well, anyways, let's do Let's just say only show me 100,000 liquidity. That, let's look at the speed. So here's our speed again. Bring this up now. It's only the bigger pairs. Yeah, so the 2.8 with the Peacock, 2.6 Peacock. Pulse Hex 1.96 on that. These are V3s. Somebody's done some market making with that, I think. USDC 1.42. Hex Pulse. Oh, we got some different things going on there. So a little bit of activity on the old Pulse chain, but usually EDI, Pulse is a given. EDI, Hex, so those are the top pairs that I always see moving. Those are the ones I see moving. All right. Susie Q. Yeah, dude. SMO Spider, I know. When we talk about the liquidity situation, people don't like it, obviously, because they want to be able to, feel more comfortable. Now the system's operating, but yeah, the thin liquidity means the numbers can go insane. Insane. You can actually create those god cannibals for sure. Mike Van Wee. How am I doing? I'm doing all right, man. How are you doing? That's a bigger question. I have a ladder. I wanted to figure out approximate bull market over the next 15 years. Is a cube. Yeah. So if we thought things were going to work the way they always worked in the past, then 2025, so we had 2021, 4 years, 25, 4 years, 29, 4 years, 2033, right? It's a bit restrictive because you don't know if things really are going to change, right? And so Hexologist, some people know him, right? He always had kind of an approach to it, which I thought was pretty good. I don't know if he still does this, but you can make allocations yearly and put the allocation in early in the year, and then every year you get to decide what you're going to do with whatever your staking step is, and then you can make decisions to go short, medium, long term based on that. But you always have the opportunity every year. Now other people like quarterly and then of course there's the monthly people that do stakes. It's all up to what you like, overall. So again, this is another plug for some of the other products that are out there, is that you can get exposure to whatever's going to happen to Hex directly through prepackaged products like the DEX, the DESI and the Maxi, the HTTs with actuator, that type of thing. So, but what will it look like? I don't know. I hope we have a 15-year bull. And Tales from the Crypto, COM is super cheap right now. Yes, it is. It is. I like the performance in COM. It's been doing pretty good overall. All right. Well, I think I'm gonna head off to the gym. Thank you everybody for joining me. You can like and share this out to other people. Welcome to my garden, my closed HEX garden. And again, if you want to take a look at those telegrams, go ahead and join them in. Yeah, you can see what's coming through. Have any requests, let me know. You guys stay crispy. I'll be back with more. I'm sure I'll be back.
Yo, T, urgent HEX buy signal. Charts flaming hot.
Golden ratio, huh? That's how legends stack T-shares.
Get them while they're crispy, folks. This window won't stay open long.
Stake smart. Win big. Time rewards those who act.
Stay crispy, Hexicans.
You gotta move it, move it!
Feel the rhythm of the blockchain.